I just was handed these documents. Reportedly, they're from a Facebook page. I don't know the relevance of them. I'm objecting to them.
Your Honor, on direct, Ms. Cleereman just opened the door as to the peacefulness of Mr. Cleereman. The relevance of the Facebook post show otherwise.
No, these Facebook posts don't show anything. First of all, counsel, start by identifying them.
Your Honor, it is the screenshot of Mr. Jason
And
Cleereman.
who got these screenshots?
It's publicly available online.
Tell me who got the screenshots.
We got the screenshots.
Who? Stop saying we. Who?
The defense counsel, the paralegal Ashley just printed them out just a couple minutes ago.
Ashley who? Then again, Ashley is a witness in this case. Step out for the rest of this trial. Sidebar. State so-called potential exhibits. And I believe it's Ashley that's your paralegal. She is now potentially again a witness in this trial. She is out and not allowed back in the courtroom. You have twice made her a potential witness. Yesterday there was testimony that she may have held herself out as a police officer. Today there's testimony potentially that she, just within the last hour, with no notice to the state, printed out what are allegedly, what purport to be Facebook posts. In both cases, she might be a witness.
That's never intended on calling her. She just does some internal research. She's never taken any statements, never written a report. We never named her as a witness. She just assists us in collecting certain things like news articles, videos, things like that. Just be judge.
Right. Counsel, for situations like that, you should use an investigator, not an employee of your office. Mr. Huebner, can you address this, please?
Well, Your Honor, I would just simply state that.
Use the mic. Neither
Yeah,
side's
I
using the mic.
apologize.
We all use the microphones.
Just put it away so that I can mumble. Judge, regardless of that issue, my point is I don't understand the relevance of two Facebook photos, I guess a slideshow of stating that other people may not like Jason, but the wife likes Jason. Like, I don't understand what the relevance of this is.
I don't understand the relevance either.
Judge, it was, so the
I
relevance.
also don't understand how they're going to be authenticated. I don't know when they were taken off of Facebook, which again, counsel, is why your paralegal's now a potential witness.
What's the question?
What's the relevance?
So, Judge, Attorney Huebner elicited on direct that from the witness, or at least she testified, he asked her a question, then she answered, I think, a little differently, and she said that Mr. Cleereman is a peaceful guy, he is into conflict resolution, something along those lines, and that, you know, the state's trying to introduce that he's of peaceful character. The statement, or not the statement, but the Facebook post just has one tagline which says, "We won't get along," and that shows the name Jason Cleereman. "We probably won't get along" is the exact language of that, and there's a picture of a gorilla. Now, as far as authentication, I think we could simply just ask her, and we don't need to show this to the jury. We can say, is this a fair and accurate representation of his Facebook profile? If she says no, then that's the end. We're not going to try to rebut that, and the jury doesn't need to see what it is. But if she says yes, then she can confirm that that is what his tagline was, and that's pretty much it. It's not really, we're not going to show it on the projector, we're just going to hand it to the witness.
Mr. Hubner?
I don't see how a Facebook profile of him saying we might not get along has anything to do with character for peacefulness. There are plenty of people that I don't get along with that have never punched me or shot me in the face.
It says we probably won't get along. It's,
Right, the one Facebook post, it looks like it might be, I don't know how to describe it, because as far as I'm concerned, Facebook is part of the downfall of society. And I'm not on Facebook, thankfully, but it looks like it might be possibly a screenshot. One that says, Jason Cleereman, we probably won't get along. Then there's one that says, Evangelina Cleereman, I, however, do get along with him. That's relevant how?
in terms of peacefulness, if you're somebody who just doesn't get along with others, if that's, the proposition that Mr. Cleereman is putting on his own page, then I think it relates to, his peacefulness, or I think that's a jury question to decide, Judge, if he's a peaceful character or unpeaceful character. We've seen the video, so we're aware of some of the basic facts in this case and how this ends up happening. We've heard language as well. I think that since it's been introduced, I think it's fair game, Judge. If it wasn't, then I think the state would have a much stronger argument to exclude this.
I disagree. It's irrelevant. A screenshot of one Facebook post shows nothing, and your paralegal stays out. She's now a potential witness on 2 times. She's out for the rest of the trial. We're not discussing this anymore, counsel. We're not discussing it anymore. I made my ruling. It's out. It's irrelevant. I'm sustaining the state's objection. Let's bring the witness back in, please. Let's have the jury brought in, please. Yes, the jury's coming in. Proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Cleereman.
Good afternoon.
I understand that first, from the defense, we want to just express our condolences for your loss. Obviously this is a very serious issue here, as Mr. Edgecomb is charged with very serious charges in this case. If there's ever a moment, as we have to get into a couple of sensitive topics, that you just need a moment or so, if the court was so allowed, we're more than happy to grant that moment for you, if necessary. Okay? All right, so I want to just first start, Ms. Cleereman. I guess I want to kind of...
Can you put the microphone, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so Ms. Cleereman, I want to just first start kind of toward the end of this situation. You indicated on direct examination that, you exited the vehicle at the time that Mr. Cleereman was shot, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
Okay, so once your husband, Mr. Cleereman, was shot, and Mr. Edgecomb left the scene, correct? You seen him go down the stairs?
That's a different question, isn't it?
Did you see, you know the time that once your husband got shot, you see Mr. Edgecomb go down the stairs immediately afterwards?
After, if I understand you correctly, after my husband was shot, I saw the man on the bike go down the stairs?
Correct, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, all right. And then immediately after that, you got out the vehicle, about 6 seconds or so, you got outside the vehicle, right?
I remember getting out of the vehicle, yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you ran over to your husband, right?
Yes, I ran over to him.
Okay. And you put your hand down, you indicated that you put your hand down on his body, is that correct?
On his back,
Okay.
because I wanted to see if he was alive.
Okay. And you concluded at that time that he wasn't, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. At this time, I want to go into State's Exhibit number 83, please. You have 37 minutes. Say 83. Okay, I believe that is the. So, Ms. Cleereman, did we just hear you say he's okay, right? Correct?
That's what I heard.
And you were asking law enforcement that at the time, right?
I was asking someone. I don't know who I was asking.
Okay. But you were asking whether your husband was okay, correct?
I don't know if that's who I was referencing to.
Was there anybody else that you could potentially be referencing at this moment?
No,
So it would likely be your husband?
most likely.
Okay. So that would indicate that at the time that you got out the car to go place your hand on Mr. Cleereman's back, you didn't confirm whether he was actually alive or not at that time, correct?
I did.
So,
I did. I saw his hands purple, and he was gurgling at his mouth. He's gurgling, and there was blood, a pool of blood on the steps,
okay.
and he was cold.
Okay. Can you explain to the members of the jury why you asked the question then, is he okay?
I was in shock.
Now, Ms. Cleereman, you also indicated on direct examination that at some point you went again to Mr. Cleereman's body and you grabbed an item from the scene, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And you indicated that you went into Mr. Cleereman's pocket, correct?
I reached into his back pocket and removed his wallet.
Okay. And you indicated that the reason you did so because you wanted something of him to hold on to, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in Mr. Cleereman's wallet other than credit cards or anything that we should know of?
No, just credit cards.
So at the time, you just wanted to hold on to Mr. Cleereman's credit cards at that time, correct?
His wallet.
His wallet that contained only credit cards, right?
ID, I don't, his IDs, his work IDs. Other items were in there, yes.
Okay. So basically IDs and credit cards, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And those items were of particular importance to you at that moment, right?
What do you mean by that question?
Well, having possession of Mr. Cleereman's credit cards at that time was of particular importance to you at that moment, correct?
Having his credit cards? No, just his wallet.
Okay,
I just
so
wanted to hold on to his wallet.
okay, so it wasn't the content of what was inside the wallet.
It had nothing to do with the content in his wallet.
Okay, so it was just the wallet itself, correct?
Correct.
And it was just a leather wallet, correct?
It's just a leather wallet, correct.
Now, you indicated on direct that when the first incident occurred, you stated that Mr. Edgecomb came from in between a couple cars in front of you. Was that right?
Well, it all happened really quickly. I'm driving westbound on Brady. I passed Dynamite, excuse me, and as I pass Dynamite, I see the bicyclist. He comes out onto the road, off the curb. I'm not sure. Well, it was off the curb or between parked cars, but he came out onto the road.
Okay. So he wasn't going a particular direction at the time. You're indicating now that he was coming in between two parked cars.
He was riding. He came out onto the road on his bike, riding his bike in front of my vehicle.
Okay. And was he was going the same direction as you did he turn the bike the same direction as you? The same direction that you were heading on Brady Street at the time?
He was riding his bike towards me.
Okay.
He was riding his bike eastbound on the westbound lane.
Okay. So you're saying that he pulled out between two cars and then he turned the bike in the immediate direction of you. Is that correct?
He got off he came onto the road from the sidewalk on his bike riding towards me.
Okay. And you
Well,
indicate...
he was on the right side. He came out onto the sidewalk. If I can make this clear, I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. I'm driving down Brady, and the bicyclist all of a sudden is in the road on the right side of my vehicle, and I swerved to avoid hitting him because he came out so quickly and abruptly, and it startled me, and I turned my car.
Now, do you recall seeing a bike lane on Brady Street at that specific place?
Is there a bike lane you're asking
Yeah,
me?
did you see a bike lane?
A bike light or bike lane?
Lane,
Okay. I don't recall a bike lane.
okay. So you didn't indicate to Mr. Rotrell Cameron that he was going the wrong direction in a bike lane. That would be an
Who?
accident. Mr. Rotrell Cameron?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. Do you recall, Mr. Cameron, do you remember anybody being at the body with you, Mr. Cleereman, as he laid there? Do you recall anybody being there with you?
I was the only one there by the body.
Okay, and that was, is that true for the whole evening of September 22nd of 2020?
What do you mean by the whole evening?
Okay, so you never came in, are you saying you never came in contact with anybody when you were present with Mr. Cleereman? Nobody else was around, correct?
At the time that I went to his body?
How many times did you go to the body?
Twice.
Okay, on the first time, was there anybody around?
No one was near me or around me near the body. I was the only one near the body.
Okay, on the second time you went to the body, was there anybody around?
No one was like right next to me. There were two people standing there by the car.
By which car?
There was a red truck behind my car.
Okay, so there was only two people. Can you describe them?
I recall a red truck. I recall a female on the passenger side, and I believe it was a male, but I believe it was a male who was the driver.
Okay.
They
And
were They were standing there.
Okay, were they standing there together?
I cannot recall.
Did they appear to come together?
When you mean do they appear to come together, do you mean
Did-
like in the same vehicle? Or?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me just clarify. Did both the man and the woman both come out of the red SUV?
From what I remember, when I turned to ask for help because I noticed there was a vehicle, the woman stepped out of her car and was standing outside her door, and the gentleman was also exiting his door. That's all I remember.
Okay, so they both came out the red SUV then,
Yes.
correct? Okay. All right, and those are the only two people that you recall being present with you on those two occasions that you went to Mr. Cleereman's body, correct?
Can you repeat that?
Those are the only two people that was around in that area at the time that you went to the body of Mr. Cleereman, correct?
Yes. I didn't scan the whole area. I just focused on those two individuals. I didn't focus on anyone else.
Okay. So, have you ever heard the name Rotrell Cameron before?
Not till today.
Okay. And you don't recall anyone else, African-American male? So it would be two African-American men at that time. You don't recall that? At the scene, at the time that you went and approached Mr. Cleereman's body?
No, I don't recall that.
And when you were at the body, did you ever call anyone and say something were you on the phone with someone when you got out the second time?
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Sure. When you got out the vehicle the second time, right? Were you on the phone at the time that you exited the vehicle?
I don't recall.
Okay. You don't recall being on the phone with someone named Anna?
Anna?
Yeah. Or Ivana?
Ivana, you
Ivana,
mean?
yes.
Ivana.
I apologize,
That's
Ivana.
okay. Yes, I called Ivana, and yes, I called Ivana.
And you were on the phone with Ivana at the time that you approached the body, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Ivana is she married to, is Ivana married?
I wanted to stand there by my husband's body, so when I called her, I was standing there, yes.
Okay.
And
Is Ivana married?
yes, she's married.
And is her husband a police officer?
No.
Okay. Do you know what his occupation is?
Her husband's occupation?
Yes.
He, actually, not really, but he's a salesman.
Okay.
I don't know what company he works for, but he's a salesman and he travels a lot.
Okay. All right. And do you recall someone coming to the scene who was a police officer at the
Yes, I
time?
do.
And who was that?
That individual is the boyfriend of my niece's boyfriend,
What's your niece's name?
Davina.
Savina?
Davina,
Davina.
Davina.
Okay. And you had occasion to be on a phone call with Davina, correct? You called Davina at some point?
I never called Davina.
Okay. How did Davina learn to come to the scene?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled, she can answer if she knows.
I don't know how she heard of it, but I can assume that her mother called her.
And what's her boyfriend's name?
Garrett. I don't know his last name, but it's Garrett.
Say that again, ma'am.
Garrett?
Garrett?
Garrett.
Okay. And so Garrett is the police officer, correct?
He is a police officer.
And he accompanied you at the time that you were given a statement in this case, correct?
No, incorrect.
Okay. Well, did Garrett ever get into a police car with you?
He did not.
Okay. At this time, I want to go into the state's exhibit 83. I guess it's the same video.
Can I interrupt?
No.
No? Okay.
Let him ask the question, please.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Oh, did you want to make a clarification? I'm sorry.
I did want to clarify something.
Okay.
What I recall is that he came to the squad car that I was in. I don't recall if he sat or not. Wait a minute. Can I think a little bit on that, please?
Sure.
All right, well, let's just get to the next question. Let's just move on. Hang on, you can think about it. He can come back to it.
Okay.
Let's go to the next question.
If we can go to state exhibit 83, I want to go to,
I remember now. He did sit with me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm sorry?
I apologize. I do remember that he did sit for a second to tell me that my family was there. He wanted me to know that the family was there, that Ivana was there, Davina was there, Maria, and my children.
So he did sit
And-
next to you at the time you gave a statement, correct?
Yes, if I remember correctly, yes.
Now, I just want to back up a little bit now. You indicated when let's go back to the first incident. Now, on the first incident, you indicate that Mr. Edgecomb was going the wrong direction is what your statement is, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And at that particular time, you indicated on direct that your husband yelled out, "What the heck," correct?
that's what I recall.
Okay. All right. And in fact, you were given several media interviews after this incident, correct?
I believe it was 2.
Do you recall giving an interview to TMJ4?
I do not.
Okay. Do you recall giving an interview to CBS 58?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you recall giving an interview to Fox 6?
I did an interview, the first interview. I don't remember which station it was with.
Okay. So the is it fair to say that the only other option would likely be WISN 12?
I'm not sure. I was very distraught that day when they came to the house.
Okay. And when you gave those interviews, when you were interviewed, you explained that your husband said, "What the heck," correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall on another interview saying that your husband yelled out, "Hey, what's the problem?"
I don't recall that.
Okay. All right, so your recollection is that your husband solely said, "Hey, what the heck," correct? All right.
What the heck?
All right. Now, when you gave those interviews, that was what, a couple days later, or how long of a period of time was that later?
I was very distraught, and I still am very distraught over the loss of my husband. And a lot of things I have been having trouble retaining. My short memory can be some foggy sometimes. I think it was a couple days after that they came to the house.
Okay. So a couple days after, you indicate that your husband said, "What the heck," right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then, did you indicate today that there was a statement when on direct where it was, well, let me stop there. Let's go to 6 minutes and 22 seconds of this exhibit. This one? Yeah, this is during. Yes.
Okay, hang on, stop, please stop. You have your husband's ID?
That's my husband!
Ma'am! Stop, please, I need, you have his, ma'am, you have his wallet in your purse, I need his ID, please give me his ID.
Yes.
I need you to talk to me, okay?
We were taking him.
Okay, hang on.
The guy was trying to put the car. My husband said, "What the fuck?" And then
Okay, hang on.
So, Miss Cleereman, did you just say that your husband yelled out, "What the fuck"?
That's what it shows on the video. Yes.
Is that a true statement, is what your husband said?
I remember what the heck. I was distraught.
Okay.
I swear a lot.
You said, I'm sorry?
I swear a lot.
You swear a lot? Okay. And then did you indicate on direct that potentially he also said, "What the fuck, motherfucker"?
Those were my words.
Okay. And is that your belief of what your husband might have said?
No.
Okay. So whose words were those on September 22nd?
That was me explaining I was upset. I was explaining it to my sister because she was not believing me. And so I was upset, and so I used the F word.
Okay. All right, if we could continue with the video, please.
Stop. You have your husband's ID?
That's my husband!
Now, is that Garrett?
That is Garrett.
Okay, and Garrett ultimately ends up in the police car with you, correct?
Everything's so foggy right now.
Ms. Cleereman, can you, and also you can just speak up a little.
Now I'm not sure.
So you're not sure if that guy ended up in the police car with you?
I know someone was sitting next to me. I don't know if it was Garrett or if it was the other detective.
All right. Now, I just want to, just kind of go back a little bit. So we got to the first incident, right? And you mentioned on direct that you were just leaving a bar called Scaffidy's, correct?
Scaffidy's.
Scaffidy's, okay. And before I start here, your husband he was a pretty tall guy. He was about 6'3", correct?
Yes, he was 6'3".
And he weighed 250 pounds, correct?
220, 225. He was very proud of himself for losing weight. So he was 220, 225.
Okay, but if I submit to you that the autopsy report indicated 250 pounds, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No.
Okay. Now, you indicated on direct that you had a glass of wine, correct?
Yes, I had one glass of wine.
Right. And your husband, you mentioned, had 3 beers, is that right?
I remember 3 beers.
And that's what you testified to on direct, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible that because your memory is a bit foggy that he could have had a lot more than 3 beers?
It's possible he had maybe 4 beers, 3 to 4 beers.
Is it possible that he also had anything other than beer on September 22nd?
What do you mean by other?
Is it possible that he had any other type of alcoholic beverage outside of beer?
Like, can you give me an example? You mean like a shot or?
Well, did your husband take shots?
No.
Okay.
He only drank beer.
Okay. So the only thing he would have would be beer.
Just
correct?
beer.
All right. And you've been made aware, obviously, in this case that the autopsy report that his blood alcohol level was a 0.12, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you would know, are you familiar with blood alcohol levels? Like,
No.
okay. Do you, if I submitted to you that the legal limit was a 0.8 in this state, would you have any reason to disbelieve that?
You're telling me that that's the legal limit?
I'm asking, do you have a reason to believe?
Your Honor, the legal limit's a .08.
Yeah,
Right, counsel
0.08.
has clarified it's .08 to operate a vehicle in Wisconsin.
Point
That's
zero.
the law.
0.08, Ms. Cleereman.
0.08 is the legal limit.
Right.
Okay.
You aware of that?
I am now.
Okay. And your husband's, the autopsy report indicated that your husband's limit was a 0.12, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And that would be 1.5 times the legal limit, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, you indicated that your husband drove to Scaffidy's, correct?
He drove to Scaffidy's?
Scaffidy's.
Yes. Yes.
I'll get it right one of these times, I'm sorry. All right, so he drove there, right?
Yes, he drove there.
Does he normally do the driving when you two are together?
No. No. Usually I do the driving. Like I drive him to court. We share one vehicle.
Okay.
Okay, we don't have 2 vehicles. We only own one. And sometimes he'll drive to work. Sometimes I'll drive to work, depending if he has, to go to an immigration interview. If he has to go to an immigration interview, he's in his suit, and then I drive and I drop him off.
Okay.
But I think I do most of the driving.
Okay. But when he came out of Scaffidy's, did I get it right that time?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So when he came out of Scaffidy's, he insisted at that moment that you do the driving, correct?
He's, when you use the word insist,
Well, he requested. He asked, correct?
he said, honey, you can drive home.
Okay. And do you believe that that was request was made based off the drinking he had been doing that night?
No, I think he was tired.
Okay. Now, You're also aware on the autopsy report that it's claimed that there was THC in his system, correct?
Well, that's what I understand now, yes.
Did your husband use marijuana?
Objection, Your Honor. The testimony is not that there actually was THC. It was not confirmed.
Sustained. The testimony was that there was THC metabolites. That's what the medical examiner testified to. Let's keep an accurate record and ask accurate questions.
Yeah, I thought I used the word claimed, but okay. Ms. Cleereman, does your husband use marijuana?
Objection, Your Honor. Rowe.
I missed that. What was the question again?
Does your husband use marijuana, or did he use marijuana?
Judge, I'm objecting.
Overruled. She can answer.
He did for chronic neck pain. He did once in a while.
He did once in a while? Mm-hmm. On September 22nd, do you recall him using marijuana?
I never saw him. I've never witnessed him.
All right.
Just to clarify, ma'am, you did not see him on the day in question use marijuana?
I did not see my husband use marijuana.
Okay. All right.
And to your knowledge, he didn't have a prescription for marijuana, did he?
Not to my knowledge.
Ms. Cleereman, have you at any point used marijuana?
Objection,
No.
Your Honor.
That's irrelevant. Sustained. Although she answered and said no. Let's move on.
Now, Ms. Cleereman, you indicated that after, per the body cam in your testimony, well, at least the statement on the body cam went. Sure. After your husband says, "What the fuck," on the video to Mr. Edgecomb, then you continue driving forward. Is that correct?
After I swerve, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I continue driving?
I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall if you made contact with Mr. Edgecomb or not?
What do you mean by contact?
Do you recall ever coming into contact with Mr. Edgecomb with the vehicle?
What do you mean by
I
that?
think he's asking, correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, did your car ever touch Mr. Edgecomb and or the bicycle?
No.
And how did you come to that conclusion?
I didn't. My vehicle never touched him. I swerved around him, and he was still biking. As I looked in my rearview mirror, he was still biking in the direction that he started to bike in.
Okay. So you're alleging that Mr. Edgecomb never got off he never fell off the vehicle?
He never fell off the vehicle?
I mean, off of his bike.
He did not fall off his bike.
Okay, and you know that because you're continually going forward, correct?
I'm going straight, but I looked in my rearview mirror.
Okay, and so you're driving straight, but you're looking at the rearview mirror at the same time?
Well, I glanced.
Okay, so you glanced. So you don't know if Mr. Edgecomb would have ever fell off the bike onto another vehicle and at some point got back on his bike?
He did not fall off his bike. He was still riding his bike.
Okay, but you know that because you just glanced in the rearview mirror at some point, right?
Yes.
Now, you're heading toward Houghton, the intersection of Houghton and Brady, correct? You're on Brady and you're headed toward Houghton, right? Okay. And you're stopped. Your vehicle comes to a stop at that point.
Yes, the light turned red and I stopped.
Okay. And were you surprised when Mr. Edgecomb ended up on the passenger side of the vehicle?
I was very surprised.
Okay. So there's been a time that you weren't looking in your rearview mirror the whole time to see Mr. Edgecomb approach the vehicle, correct?
No, I was not.
Okay. So at least there was some period of time that you don't know what Mr. Edgecomb was doing, correct?
Correct. I saw him continuing to ride his bike, so I was not thinking that he was. I didn't think anything other than I'm going home.
Okay. And your direct testimony was that Mr. Edgecomb says to your husband, hey, were you talking to me? Correct?
When he approached the vehicle, he said, "Hey, are you talking to me?"
Right. Those are the only words that Mr. Edgecomb said before.
Those are the only words that I remember.
And then your husband replied, yeah, I was talking to you.
He just said yes.
Okay. And then at that point, Mr. Edgecomb punched Mr. Cleereman, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, Mr. Edgecomb never made a threat to you, did he?
No.
He never made a verbal threat to you?
Never made a verbal threat to me.
Okay. He never mentioned at any time that he had a weapon on his person, correct?
We never exchanged words.
Okay. So Mr. Edgecomb never said, I have a gun, correct?
I never heard him speak a word to me, no.
Okay. And he never said that to Mr. Cleereman either, correct?
No.
And Mr. Edgecomb also never brandished a weapon. He never raised a shirt, showed a weapon. He never pulled anything out. Is that true?
He was on his bike, he punched my husband, and he rode off.
Okay. I just want to kind of, before we go to that point, I want to just kind of stay right here at the time the punch was made. Mr. Edgecomb never displayed a firearm at that time that he punched Mr. Cleereman, did he?
I can't say because I didn't see his hands. I just saw that my husband was struck and his glasses flew off, and so I didn't see a weapon.
Okay. And so he never made any indication of having a weapon or threatening of any type of weapon whatsoever at that time, correct?
No, he did not.
Okay. And for all you know, Mr. Edgecomb didn't have a weapon at all at that point, right?
Yes, it's fair to say.
Okay. So you mentioned that this happened pretty quick, right?
Yes.
So Mr. Edgecomb punches Mr. Cleereman, right?
Yes.
All right, let's go to the punch. If we go to, what is it, state 80, 83. Okay, stay if you, counsel, if you don't mind playing this one. Okay. I want to stop right here, please. Now, Ms. Cleereman, is this the vehicle that you were driving on the night of September 22nd of 2020?
Well, there are many Kias. There are many Kias, so I want to make sure that is our vehicle.
You want to take a look at does this refresh any of your recollection? You remember being behind a Reinhardt truck?
No, I don't remember being behind a Reinhardt truck.
Okay. You want to take a second look at this vehicle to see if it's, or if you want to come closer to the court?
Well, I mean, it looks like my vehicle.
Okay. All right. And you have no reason to think otherwise that is likely your vehicle, September 22nd, correct?
Well, it's hard to tell. I don't know who's in the vehicle.
Okay. All right. We'll continue playing, please. I want to stop it right here.
Okay.
Can you confirm that this is your vehicle at this point?
I can't.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Counsel, if you mind, continue playing. Can you stop, please, right there? Do you see a bicyclist coming along at this point right here?
Yes.
Okay. Is that Mr. Edgecomb?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, counsel, if you continue playing. And if you could stop right there, counsel. So Mr. Edgecomb came from a pretty far distance, right? You were a pretty good amount of space between you guys, right?
It appears that way.
All right. Would you, if we could back up maybe 5 seconds. Do you see Mr. Edgecomb in frame at this point?
Barely.
Okay. Can we back up maybe 5 more seconds, please? Okay. We can stop right there. Do you see Mr. Edgecomb in frame on this video?
No.
Okay. So Mr. Edgecomb was at least a half a block behind you, correct?
Yes.
Because you don't see him in his frame, right?
No.
You would agree that the distance up to this point would probably be close to about a half a block or so, right?
Block and a half.
About a block and a half distance.
Yes.
Counsel, you can continue to play. So Mr. Edgecomb, it appears that a bicyclist is now coming in frame, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And if we could, you can continue. Okay, stop right here, please. Now, you mentioned that Mr. Edgecomb surprised you when he came to the vehicle, right?
Yes.
So you didn't see Mr. Edgecomb when he got to this place, right?
No.
So for at least a block and a half distance, you didn't have any indication where Mr. Edgecomb was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, counsel, we continue playing. I want to stop right there. So is this the point where have you identified this being your vehicle at this time?
Yes, that's my vehicle. then.
Okay, and the person that's approaching the vehicle, do you know who that is at this point?
The man on the bike.
Do you recognize that to be the defendant in this case?
I haven't looked at him.
Okay, you want to look at him?
Not really.
Okay, I understand. All right, so counsel, you continue playing. Okay, can you stop right there, please? Is that the way that you recall the incident playing out when your husband was struck by Mr. Edgecomb?
Yes, but can you rewind it a little bit?
Sure.
Yes, that's what I recall.
Okay, so at this time, I want you to focus in on the passenger door as we get ready to play it now. So you go ahead, counsel. Okay, stop it right there. Can we go back, please? I'm sorry. Right there is good. Back up a little bit farther. Okay, let's play it again, and I want to stop it very quickly as we, stop it right there, please. So Mr. Cleereman has now opened his door at this point, correct?
Are you asking me based on the video that I'm looking at
Yes.
or based on my recollection?
Well, we can start, based off the video, do you see a door open?
Based on the video, I see the door open ajar.
Okay. And that purports to be your husband, Mr. Cleereman, opening that door, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just so that we're clear, at this point, you haven't had a conversation with your husband at this point. This surprised you, right?
Yes.
Your husband is struck by a punch, and then he immediately opens the door, correct?
Based on the video, but my recollection, I don't recall him opening the door.
Okay. But you don't dispute at this point, based off the video, you see that he did open the door, correct?
I'm sorry, counsel, I can hear you.
Based off this video, you don't dispute that Mr. Cleereman did open the door at this point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, prior to Mr. Cleereman opening that door, he didn't have a conversation with you within a couple seconds, did he? You didn't have a conversation with your husband prior to him opening the door, correct?
No.
So, Mr. Cleereman opening the door was responsive to being punched, correct?
Well, yes, it kind of calls for speculation, but she was right there. She's witnessing the whole thing. She can answer if she knows.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, if I can remember. So, when
You said
Mr.
him opening the door was responsive to the punch. That was the question, I think.
Yes, thanks, Your Honor.
I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, so Mr. Cleereman at this point doesn't indicate to you, I want to talk to him, right? He didn't make that statement, did he?
Mr. Edgecomb, you said?
Mr. Cleereman, Jason Cleereman, he didn't tell you, I want to talk to him, correct?
No, he did not at that point.
He didn't say anything to you at this point, did he?
After he was punched and his glasses flew off, and then he touched his face, he told me he was bleeding.
Okay,
That was a conversation.
but he never indicated to you at this point that he wanted to talk to Mr. Edgecomb, correct?
No, he did not.
Okay, so prior to opening the door, he never said, I want to talk to him. Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now I want you to now look at Mr. Edgecomb on the bicycle, right? That's the individual that struck your husband, correct?
Yes, based on the video, yes.
Okay, and at this moment, Mr. Edgecomb appears to be going straight, correct?
The corner's right a few feet from where he is right now.
But at this very moment, he's going straight, correct?
Yes.
At this very moment, Mr. Edgecomb is not posing a threat anymore beyond that punch that he just threw, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, Mr. Edgecomb is not a threat to you at this moment, correct?
Can you ask that in a different way?
Sure. Mr. Edgecomb is, we'll say, a couple feet away from the vehicle, correct?
He's a couple feet away from the vehicle.
The bike is now angled to go straight at this moment.
Yes.
He's not a threat to you at this moment, correct?
Not to me, no.
He wouldn't be a threat to your husband at this moment either, correct?
Not sure.
Okay. Now, at this point, Mr. Edgecomb's back is to your vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you have full control of the vehicle at this point, correct?
Yes.
You get to make the decisions on what you do with that vehicle as the sole person in charge of that vehicle at that moment, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, from the position we're facing now, let me see if I can make this clear. I'm now showing Ms. Cleereman what has been marked as Defense Exhibit 5 for the record. Ms. Cleereman. All right. So does this area look familiar to you? No?
Yes, it does.
All right, so this is a fair and accurate representation of, the area in which you were on September 22nd of 2020. Okay.
Yes.
And you were headed, would it be east? Well, you were headed west on Brady Street, correct?
West on Brady,
And
yes.
you're going toward Houghton Street, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were on your way home that night, correct?
Yes.
And you would have proceeded the direction of going toward Houghton Street and then making a left turn to go home, right?
No, I would
Okay,
have
which way would you go?
continued straight
Okay, you would continue straight
onto Water Street.
to Water Street. So you would actually pass Houghton Street, correct?
Yes.
There would be no reason to make a turn at all on Houghton Street to go home, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Ms. Cleereman, you indicated that you seen Mr. Edgecomb at the time that you had to swerve, correct?
I saw him at the time I had to swerve.
All right. And you would have noticed the type of attire that Mr. Edgecomb was wearing at that time, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. How would you describe what Mr. Edgecomb is wearing at this moment?
A white shirt with a black vest.
Okay. And that was apparent to you at the time that you made the first incident that occurred, correct? The incident that happened prior on Brady, right?
Yes.
You noticed that he had a black vest, white shirt, correct?
You know, no, I can't say that I knew his attire when I swerved.
Okay. But you looked back in your rearview mirror, correct?
Yeah, I focused on just the figure.
Okay. So you weren't paying attention to what he was wearing at that moment, right?
It all happened so quickly, and I was still driving.
Okay. So you don't know what he was wearing at that time through your rearview mirror, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you see Mr. Edgecomb now on the right side of your vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And were you able to see him on September 22nd at this time?
No, I was looking for the glasses, so I don't know which way he was going.
Okay. But at some point, your husband said, follow him, correct?
He did not say follow him.
Your husband never said follow Mr.
He
Edgecomb.
never used those words. He never said follow Mr. Edgecomb.
Is there any words that Mr. Cleereman used?
When I started driving, when the light turned green, he said, turn the corner. I want to talk to him.
Okay. Now, in order for you to know where Mr. Edgecomb was, you would have to be able to see him ahead of you, correct?
I would have to,
You have to see Mr. Edgecomb in order to go in the direction of Mr. Edgecomb, right?
I wasn't going in his direction. I was driving, and then my husband turned me to turn the corner. So I didn't see him. If he turned the corner or went straight, I didn't see him.
And when your husband said, turn right, he wanted to talk to Mr. Edgecomb, right?
He said, turn the corner. I want to talk to him.
So you were looking for Mr. Edgecomb so that you could enable Mr. Cleereman to get in the vicinity of Mr. Edgecomb in order for him to talk to him, correct?
I turned the corner, yes, because he asked me to, and when I saw him, I stopped my vehicle.
Okay, when you saw Mr. Edgecomb, right?
When I saw the man on the bike.
The man on the bike, okay?
Council, 1 or 2 more questions, then we're going to break for lunch. It's almost noon. You can pick up after lunch, but 1 or 2 more
Well,
questions.
we can pick up after lunch. I'm fine with that, guys.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost noon. We're going to break for lunch. I appreciate, and ma'am, you can step down. I appreciate that the jury, to my observation, you've all been paying attention. You were all here on time this morning. I appreciate you paying attention. Both sides appreciate you paying attention. We're going to continue a testimony this afternoon. As I said earlier this week, we're not going to finish today. We will most likely, I'm hoping, finish on Monday. But we'll break for lunch. It's noon. If you can be back in the jury room a little bit after 1, 5 after 1, or 10 after 1, and we'll start as shortly thereafter as possible. Again, choose wisely in the cafeteria. See you in an hour. Everybody else can remain seated. All right, the jury's out. We're off the record. We're in recess. Back at 1:15.
I did want to place one thing on the record as well, or we can do that now.
Fine, we can do that after lunch.
All right, thank you.
1:15.